Welcome back to Golden Fortune Leo, the corner of the cosmos where astrology stops pretending to be abstract and starts sounding like the inner monologue you've been avoiding. I'm your longtime researcher, equal parts astrologer, psychologist, and reluctant philosopher with a dash of novelist curiosity and a soft spot for Buddhist sanity. Today's message is titled "What's Coming Will Shock Your Entire Family," a reading for the chosen ones stepping into the year of triumph 2025. This one isn't a gentle horoscope, it's a revelation wrapped in starlight and irony. Let's be real, Leo, you were never meant to blend in. The universe didn't give you that solar glow so you could hide in the background and politely nod at everyone else's version of your destiny. You were born to enter rooms like a sunrise, loud enough to make the blinds tremble. And yet, somehow, you've spent years playing peacekeeper in your own family saga, dimming your flame just enough to keep everyone comfortable. You smiled through the small talk, edited your opinions, and called it maturity. What it really was, though, was emotional diplomacy, the art of pretending your roar was just a polite purr. That season of polite silence is over. The universe, it seems, has run out of patience. Somewhere between your last family gathering and your latest existential sigh, the cosmos decided it was time to revoke your subscription to other people's expectations. You've felt it, haven't you? That pulse inside your chest that won't calm down, the one that sounds suspiciously like freedom disguised as anxiety. That's your soul clearing its throat. And it's about to speak a truth that will rearrange more than a few family photos. This isn't rebellion for rebellion's sake. It's an evolution, inconvenient, yes, but long overdue. For years you've worn the family-approved version of yourself, the responsible one, the charming one, the don't worry I've got it one. But that version has expired. You didn't incarnate to maintain the family illusion of peace, you came to upgrade the system. To be the glitch that reveals the program. Every Leo eventually reaches this moment, the collision point between loyalty to others and loyalty to your own soul. The cosmos just happens to schedule yours for the year of triumph 2025, because apparently, divine timing loves drama. Let's talk about the mirror your family holds up. They say they love you, and they do, but often, they love the edited draft. The safe Leo who keeps the conversation pleasant and the family calendar predictable. They love you as long as your growth doesn't cause them growing pains. They love you as long as your truth doesn't require them to confront theirs. Families are funny like that, they crave continuity even when it suffocates evolution. And you, being the golden-hearted performer that you are, have played along for years, mistaking harmony for love. But the real love you're learning now, the kind that requires honesty, isn't about keeping the peace. It's about creating it from truth. And truth, my friend, is rarely convenient. When you finally speak it, some of your relatives will stare at you as though you've just confessed to joining a space cult. Others will offer nervous laughter, hoping it's a joke. The rest will fall silent, the kind of silence that says, "This wasn't in the script." That's when you'll know you've done it right. You didn't come here to fit into their story, you came to write your own. Psychologically speaking, this is what therapists call individuation, that elegant word for finally realizing your family's expectations were never your job description. The guilt that comes with this realization is natural. You'll feel it like an echo, the weight of all the sacrifices they made, the hopes they pinned, the subtle ways they trained you to equate obedience with love. It's heavy, yes, but guilt is just proof that you're shedding borrowed values. You're not abandoning them, you're simply refusing to carry what was never meant to be yours. Buddhist philosophy would call this right understanding, seeing things as they truly are, not as conditioning painted them. You were never meant to inherit the family's fear of standing out. You were meant to model what courage looks like. And courage isn't loud, it's consistent. It's showing up as yourself, even when the room gets cold. Now, about that shock in the title, it won't come from a scandal, though the family rumor mill will probably try to make it one. It'll come from your decision to stop apologizing for being intense, ambitious, or gloriously unconventional. You'll take a path that doesn't fit their template, maybe a career leap they don't understand, a relationship that defies their logic, or a reinvention that feels to them like madness but to you like oxygen. And they'll look at you, half proud, half terrified, wondering how the golden child turned into the wildfire. But here's the secret twist, the shock isn't destruction. It's awakening. When the illusion breaks, real connection begins. Some of them will eventually see that your courage gave them permission to question their own complacency. Others will cling tighter to their narratives. That's okay. You're not their teacher. You're their mirror, and not everyone is ready to look. Humor will be your best tool through all this. When the drama unfolds, don't sink into solemnity. Remember, Leo, you're ruled by the sun, even your crises come with good lighting. So when your aunt says, "You've really changed," smile and reply, "Thank you, it's called evolution." When your father sighs, "This isn't what we planned for you," say, "I know, isn't that wonderful?" Irony, delivered with warmth, is your secret weapon. It disarms fear faster than tears ever could. What's happening now is a family karmic reset. Every generation has one person who decides enough is enough, who refuses to inherit the emotional furniture. You, dear Leo, are that person. The chosen one in your lineage. The one who ends the pattern of self-erasure and starts the era of self-expression. And while this might sound lofty, it's actually practical. Once you stop living for approval, you start living with purpose. Once you release the performance, you find peace. The beauty of this awakening is that it's irreversible. Once you've tasted authenticity, you can't go back to pretending. You'll still love your family, but you'll love them as an equal, not as their creation. You'll see that their disappointment isn't punishment, it's confusion. They built a picture frame around you, and you had the audacity to grow wider than its borders. It's not their fault they're startled. It's just physics, the light got too big for the frame. So as the year of triumph 2025 unfolds, remember that every shock, every awkward silence, every sideways glance at the dinner table is simply confirmation that you're succeeding. You're dismantling illusions in real time. And when the dust settles, they'll still be there, maybe quieter, maybe wiser, realizing that the Leo who dared to be authentic wasn't defying them, but freeing them. Because at the heart of it all, this isn't a story about rebellion. It's about reunion, with your truest self. The roar they'll hear isn't defiance. It's relief. It's you finally exhaling after years of polite suffocation. And yes, it might shake the walls. But walls are meant to come down when the view outside is better. That, Leo, is what's coming, not scandal, not destruction, but illumination. The kind that blinds the fearful and blesses the brave. So let them be shocked. You were never meant to be predictable. You were meant to be real. And real, in your case, happens to shine like sunlight breaking through generations of clouds. The volcano within every Leo has always been both a blessing and a warning label. It's that inner pulse that says, "You were born for magnificence," while whispering, "Don't you dare forget to behave." It's pride and authenticity arm wrestling in the middle of your ribcage. Pride wants to maintain peace, authenticity wants oxygen. You've spent years trying to negotiate between the two, convincing yourself that a smaller version of your truth was still noble enough. But the soul doesn't bargain. It waits. It simmers under layers of politeness, guilt, and family choreography, until one day it stops waiting and starts roaring. That day is now. Permission granted. The universe is practically holding open the exit door and handing you the match. This isn't some impulsive rebellion or late-in-life identity experiment. It's the inevitable physics of a compressed star reclaiming its size. You've been folding yourself into boxes labeled acceptable, humble, and normal, as if those were virtues instead of containment strategies. But cosmic law is simple: when a star shrinks too long, it doesn't fade quietly, it detonates into light. The so-called explosion of 2025 isn't chaos, it's precision. It's clarity disguised as disruption. You're not losing control, you're finally reclaiming authorship. The people around you may call it rebellion, immaturity, even betrayal, but let them have their headlines. What's really happening is rebirth. The part of you that's been politely suffocating at dinner tables is clawing its way out, brushing off the dust, and demanding sunlight. Of course, guilt arrives right on schedule. Leo guilt is an art form. You feel bad for wanting more, for outgrowing the plan, for admitting that love built on obedience isn't love at all. You've been conditioned to believe that self-expression is selfishness and that joy must be earned through sacrifice. But if your soul enrolled in a different curriculum, why keep repeating the same emotional class every generation failed to pass? The guilt you feel isn't a moral signal, it's an evolutionary one. It's proof that you're shedding layers of programming, not betraying them. The difference between rebellion and authenticity is intention, and yours isn't about defiance. It's about alignment. Let's get something straight: loving your family doesn't mean you owe them your identity. You can honor their sacrifices without inheriting their fears. You can thank them for the roof without agreeing to live forever in their attic. Real loyalty isn't blind devotion, it's courageous honesty. The chosen ones of your sign already understand this. They've learned that love without truth slowly ferments into resentment, and pretending to be who you were just to keep peace is the fastest route to internal war. The guilt isn't proof that you're wrong, it's the sound of your boundaries waking up. Now, let's consult the astrological blueprint. Every Leo revolution manifests differently depending on your celestial coordinates, but all roads lead to liberation. If you were born between July 23 and August 2, your rebellion wears a professional suit. The shock to your family might come when you abandon the predictable path for something audacious: art, healing, leadership, or entrepreneurship. They'll call it reckless until they see your name on the building. Stability, after all, looks different when it's funded by passion instead of fear. For those born between August 3 and August 13, your battlefield is the heart. Love becomes your declaration of independence. You may fall for someone your family will never understand, or you may walk away from a relationship that looked perfect from the outside but felt like a cage on the inside. Either way, you're done negotiating your emotional freedom. You're no longer auditioning for approval, you're writing your own vows to authenticity. And if your birthday falls between August 14 and August 22, your metamorphosis cuts straight to identity. You're about to change in ways that leave even your closest relatives whispering, "What happened to them?" The answer is simple: you happened. For the first time, you're allowing yourself to be seen without translation. The masks are cracking. The roles are dissolving. You're done being a curated exhibit in someone else's museum of expectations. Each version of the Leo revolution shares one unifying theme: liberation disguised as scandal. The family may interpret your evolution as chaos because it disrupts the emotional economy they've relied on. Your compliance was the currency. When you stop paying, the system panics. They'll question your motives, your sanity, even your gratitude. But remember, when a lion walks out of the circus, the audience doesn't applaud, they gasp. Their shock isn't proof that you're wrong. It's proof that they never expected you to survive without their applause. In Buddhist terms, this moment is called breaking attachment. Families cling to roles because they mistake predictability for love. You're breaking that illusion, and it will feel, at first, like loss. But on the other side of that discomfort lies freedom, not the reckless kind that burns bridges, but the sacred kind that builds new ones from truth. The Buddha taught that liberation isn't about escaping the world, it's about no longer being ruled by it. You're learning that lesson through the people who taught you both love and limitation in the same breath. So how do you carry yourself through the storm? With humor, preferably. When someone gasps, "You've changed," smile and say, "Finally." When your cousin whispers, "You're so different now," tell them, "It was time someone evolved." Humor isn't defiance, it's grace with good timing. It lets you rise above the melodrama while keeping your dignity intact. You were never meant to grovel for approval, you were meant to remind everyone that evolution can be elegant. The year of triumph 2025 isn't about fighting your family, it's about ending the quiet civil war inside you. You're not here to burn bridges, you're here to stop pretending they were highways. The people who truly love you will adjust. The ones who don't were never loving you, they were loving the role you played. Either way, you win. The guilt will fade. The fear will shrink. And what remains will be something worth the chaos, a life that finally fits the size of your soul. So go ahead, Leo. Let the volcano erupt. It's not destruction, it's creation in progress. You're not burning the old world down, you're lighting the new one. And if your family looks shocked when the smoke clears, just smile and remind them, don't worry, it's only sunlight. Loyalty is a beautiful thing, Leo, until it starts to feel like a leash. You were born with a heart that beats louder than reason, the kind of heart that would carry someone else's burden without asking if they ever intended to share yours. It's both your crown and your curse. You crave independence as if it were oxygen, but you also crave belonging as if it were food. You want to be admired for your strength but loved for your softness, and somewhere in between those two cravings, you've been trained to believe that keeping everyone comfortable is the definition of love. But here's the inconvenient truth, it isn't. Love without freedom isn't love, it's performance with better lighting. You've spent so long confusing obedience for care that loyalty has quietly turned into captivity. The people you would walk through fire for are the same ones gently tightening the leash, smiling as they do it, because they don't see it as control. They call it concern, tradition, family unity. What they don't realize is that every time they hand you that leash, it glows a little hotter, branding your independence with guilt. They're not villains, they're just scared. Your growth forces them to see their own stagnation, and that's a mirror few are brave enough to face. The cosmic irony is almost poetic, it's not your decision that shocks them, it's your power. The moment you move through life without apologizing for existing, you remind them how much of their stability depended on your self-doubt. When you stop asking for permission to shine, everyone suddenly realizes how dark their own corners have become. That's why the year of triumph 2025 isn't your rebellion arc, it's your emancipation arc. You're not defying them, you're defining yourself. It's not chaos. It's clarity. And clarity has a sound, silence. When the news drops, whatever your revelation may be, a decision, a transformation, a truth finally spoken, the air will thicken. Family gatherings will hum with judgment disguised as politeness. Someone will sigh too loudly, someone else will pray under their breath as if authenticity were contagious. You'll feel their disapproval like static, invisible but sharp. Let them. Because when you trade approval for peace, you always win in the long run. Approval expires the moment you stop performing. Peace, once earned, never leaves. It'll sting at first. Every Leo hates disappointing their audience, even when that audience is family. You'll wonder if freedom was worth the awkward silences and the subtle exile from the family group chat. You'll rehearse the apology in your mind, not because you mean it, but because silence is so heavy it tempts you to fill it. Don't. You're not required to apologize for existing as yourself. You've spent enough years whispering your truth, it's time to speak it at full volume. Let's take a brief detour into psychology, because even the cosmos appreciates context. Families are systems, not just groups. Systems thrive on equilibrium. Every member plays a role, the responsible one, the black sheep, the peacemaker, and when one person changes roles, the whole system wobbles. You've been the emotional thermostat for years, maintaining the temperature everyone could tolerate. Now that you've turned the heat up, the system panics. They say you've changed, but what they mean is you've stopped complying. They warn you that you'll regret it, but what they fear is that your liberation might expose their resignation. This reaction isn't personal, it's biological. Human beings fear change almost as much as they fear mirrors. Buddhism calls this clinging, the desperate attachment to fixed identities and familiar suffering. When you break that attachment, you're not just freeing yourself, you're forcing everyone else to confront their own illusions. The discomfort they feel is their karma working through them, not yours to manage. Compassion doesn't require self-erasure. You can love them, wish them peace, and still walk away from the emotional recycling center they've built in your name. Of course, freedom sends a bill. Every transformation does. You might lose a few phone calls. Holidays might get quiet. The family chat might shrink from chaos to crickets. Some relatives will act as if your authenticity is a betrayal of the unspoken contract you all signed at birth, keep the peace at all costs. But what you gain is worth far more, your breath back, your reflection unfiltered, your sense of direction restored. You'll look in the mirror and finally see someone who belongs to themselves. That alone is worth every uncomfortable dinner table pause. And the funny thing is, not everyone will resist. Some relatives will surprise you with their grace. They'll lean closer, not away. They'll say, "I wish I had the courage to do what you're doing." Others will try to lure you back with guilt, the classic family currency. The wise ones, the ones who love you beyond the script, will adapt. The rest were never holding you, they were holding on to the performance. Let them. You're not the villain for stepping off the stage. You're just tired of playing a part you didn't audition for. There's a reason, by the way, that Leos are often chosen to play the liberator in their families. You are ruled by the sun, the heart of the solar system, and your energy naturally exposes what's hidden. You don't dismantle systems with logic, you melt them with authenticity. You are the emotional revolution that no one expects but everyone secretly needs. The chosen ones of your sign carry an ancestral roar, the sound of all the silenced generations echoing through your chest. When you finally say, "No more pretending," it isn't rebellion. It's restoration. You're tearing up contracts written in fear and signing new ones in light. The sound of that paper tearing doesn't just echo in your home, it echoes through time. So when the old world trembles, when people look at you with a mix of admiration, confusion, and panic, remember this, they're not angry at your light. They're angry at what your light reveals. You've simply turned the lights on in a room that preferred the shadows. It's not your job to dim yourself so others can sleep. If they need darkness, let them close their eyes. You were born to illuminate, not to apologize for being the sun. And if you ever start to doubt yourself, recall this truth, loyalty is only noble when it's mutual. When it becomes a cage, it stops being love and starts being fear. You've served your sentence in the family mythology. Now it's time to walk free, unshackled, unapologetic, and gloriously alive. You're not burning bridges, you're building a road out of them, one paved with honesty, lined with boundaries, and lit by the kind of freedom that no one can take away again. That is the true Leo lesson. Loyalty, when unexamined, is bondage. But loyalty to truth, that's liberation. And that, dear Leo, is the only kind worth keeping. Grief, when it comes for Leo, doesn't arrive in black, it arrives in gold. It's the soft shimmer that settles after the storm, when all the noise of confrontation fades and you're left alone with yourself, not the edited version you showed the family, but the raw, magnificent creature that finally escaped the cage. This is the part no one warns you about, the morning that follows liberation. You'll grieve not just the people who drift away, but the illusion of harmony you once protected like a sacred artifact. You'll miss the fake peace that came from saying yes when you meant no. You'll ache for the version of yourself that performed love as a duty and called it balance. And you'll cry, not because you're weak, but because the body always cries when it starts breathing real air again after years of holding its breath. This morning isn't regression, it's detox. You're flushing out generations of emotional residue, all the ancestral lessons that equated silence with virtue, and endurance with grace. The tears aren't punishment, they're purification. You're not falling apart, you're coming clean. So when the loneliness hits, and it will, because detoxes are never glamorous, don't rush to patch it. Let the silence stretch. Let the emptiness echo. Because on the other side of that grief is a quiet miracle, you begin to hear your own voice again. Not the voice trained to comfort others, but the one that knows how to comfort you. And that's when the rebuilding begins. As you start piecing your life back together, you'll realize something extraordinary. Family was never about DNA. It was always about resonance. True family doesn't flinch when you tell the truth. They don't make you choose between being loved and being honest. They don't require you to dim your light to keep their shadows comfortable. Some of these people you'll have known for years, others will arrive as if the universe finally decided to send reinforcements once it saw you stop pretending. They are your real tribe, the ones who meet your roar with respect, not resistance. They were waiting at the edges of your story, ready to appear the moment you stopped mistaking conditional acceptance for love. Of course, the critics will have their lines ready. They'll say you've changed, and you'll say you finally showed up. They'll call you reckless, and you'll shrug, because you've never been more real. They'll whisper that you've lost your mind, and you'll smile, knowing you've finally found your peace. The year of triumph 2025 was never about proving your worth to others, it's about realizing you never had to. For the chosen ones born under Leo, this is the year you finally understand that peace built on lies isn't peace at all. It's performance. And you, my radiant friend, were never meant to perform, you were born to express. Then one morning, maybe months from now, maybe quietly and without ceremony, you'll wake up and notice something miraculous. You're no longer walking on eggshells. You're not editing your words before speaking, or tensing your shoulders before gatherings. You're not scanning the room for approval before you exhale. You're alive again. Fully, unapologetically, gloriously alive. Your roar will no longer be something you restrain, it will be a song of liberation that echoes through the lives of everyone still hiding behind politeness. Even those who judged you will secretly envy you, because deep down, every human being craves that same permission, to be seen, to be heard, to be real. And because you're Leo, you won't navigate this transformation quietly. No, you'll probably do it with signature flair. Maybe you'll break the news to your family at a dinner table, glass of wine in hand, narrating your decision with the poise of a TED Talk speaker. Or maybe you'll keep it simple, a 2-line text message, followed by adopting a cat named Freedom. Either way, your sense of humor will save you. You've always known that laughter disarms judgment faster than defensiveness ever could. When the tension rises, you won't need to argue, you'll simply smile, maybe toss in a witty line, and remind yourself that you're not auditioning for anyone's applause anymore. You're the headliner of your own life now. This isn't a war against your family, no matter how dramatic they make it sound. It's a homecoming to yourself. The shock they feel isn't about betrayal, It's the same shock a seed feels when it splits open and realizes it's supposed to become a tree. Painful? Yes. Necessary? Absolutely. Growth always feels like loss to those still rooted in comfort. But one day, they'll look at you, standing tall, radiant in your truth, and understand that this was never rebellion. It was destiny. You weren't created to be their reflection, you were meant to be their revelation. So breathe, Leo. Stand tall. The universe didn't design you for smallness. It crafted you to lead, to illuminate, to live so vividly that even disapproval becomes a kind of art when filtered through your courage. Let them be shocked. Let them gossip. Let them learn. Because in the end, when the noise dies down, they won't remember your defiance, they'll remember your integrity. They'll remember the day you chose truth over comfort and became the kind of legend that future generations whisper about when they finally get brave enough to choose themselves too. That's the true meaning of being a chosen one in the year of triumph 2025, not to please, not to prove, but to simply be. To wake each day and live a life that feels like your own, even if it unsettles those who once defined you. To understand that your roar isn't an act of rebellion. It's truth with a heartbeat, steady, strong, unashamed. And now, Leo, as you stand in this new chapter of your story, remember to enjoy it. You've earned this freedom. Celebrate it with all the drama and humor that makes you unforgettable. Take the trips you postponed, chase the creative projects you kept shelving, fall in love with your own company again. You've spent a lifetime protecting everyone else's comfort, it's time to protect your joy. If this message resonated with your lion heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Let other Leos, other dreamers, rebels, and truth-tellers, know that they're not alone in their transformation. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Golden Fortune Leo, where we don't just talk about astrology, we decode the human heart with starlight and a sense of humor. Like the video, share it with your pride, and remember, your roar isn't noise. It's your nature reminding the world you're still here, still shining, and finally, beautifully, free.